get it right. Trying to find some balance in my life, but I never really put up a fight. Didn't follow my dreams, and now I'm losing sleep. Slowing it down, leave still yours if you want it. Enjoy the ride, 'cause those ups and those downs is what makes it worth the ride. You will make it in time. What if I lost touch? What if I'll never get it right? I try to follow my heart, but I lost it somehow. Wish that someone could say it'll all be okay. Just listen to me as I say you'll make it in time. 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 I really wanted to get it right. Trying to find some balance in my life, and I never really put up a fight. Didn't follow my dreams, and now I'm losing sleep.
What Boston, to me, is the love of suffering. Getting there was a lot of pain. The race itself was brutal, but I found for me, the best things in life require patience, suffering, and a worthy challenge. Packet pickup. I was very nervous for it, but actually it wasn't bad at all. The location from GPS took me right to where the parking was, the under garage parking. And parking was absolutely crazy. It took me about 20 minutes of looking around. Eventually I gave up and I went to the valet, and I was willing to pay the extra money to valet. However, if you're a racer, the valet is free. I didn't know that. So know that valet is free, at least right below the building where packet pickup was. It was free, and it saved me a bunch of time, and it saved me a bunch of money. So once you get into the building, it is chaos. There are thousands and thousands of people. It's a very long process. So don't get to packet pickup at the very end. Know that it will be probably a couple hours worth of waiting in line just to get your bib. And then also the expo, it takes a while as well. But it was incredible. There was so much pride, so much anticipation while waiting in line for your bib or at the expo. It's an incredible experience. All right, going to race day. The buses, there are two different buses or two different locations you can go to. One is at the finish line, and that will take you about an hour, and there you have a drop bag. I did not do that. I actually stayed near the start line. I was in Marlboro, and I used the bus that was about a 10-minute drive, and then from there is no drop off, no packet, or no bag drop. Instead, what you bring with you to the bus is what you're using. I made a mistake, and by the time I was on the bus, I ended up realizing that I had my case for my earbuds, and then I also have my windbreaker, which I didn't want to have to carry with me. I had to make a choice of carrying them with me because I didn't want to throw them away and waste, the windbreaker was $120, and the case, of course, that's probably $200 case. So I ended up carrying it with me. I didn't like it, but once you get to the Athletic Village, whatever you have is what you're racing with, or you throw it away. Once you get to the Athletic Village, it is insane. There are thousands of people. There are so many people waiting for the bathrooms. The bathrooms, the porta potties were a joke. It took me probably 20 minutes from the back of the line to actually use the restroom, and it's not something that I wanted to do. However, if I had done it again, I probably wouldn't have even used those restrooms because there are more porta potties after you leave the Athletic Village and you start your about a mile walk to the start line. There's another section of porta potties. There's more water, and then they have sunscreen along the path. So if I would have known that, I wouldn't have waited for that 20 minutes. Instead, I would have been preparing, and I would have got to my gate a little bit earlier. So that's good to know. Once you get to that 1 mile walk to the start line, there are tons of corrals, and based off of your bib number is what corral you go to. So I was in the 3000s for my bib, which meant that I was supposed to go to corral 4. I didn't know that because I didn't pay attention, but luckily somebody helped me. By the time I got to my corral, it was insane. It was just jam-packed. So I wish I would have got there earlier. All right, starting off. They started exactly on time, and they start professionals a lot earlier, and then I was in the wave 1. So I started at 10 a.m. It's a late start, and it got really, really hot. By 10 a.m., it was already, it felt like it was 85 degrees. However, the start line, what I would recommend is just be patient. There are thousands of people all stuck together, and you're gonna go slower than what you want. Luckily, you're with people who are trying to pace around the same as you. Woo! The weather is incredibly unpredictable for Boston. I'm sure everybody knows, but it was cold and rainy just the day before. Come race day, it was hot, sunny, and miserable. The weather absolutely played a massive role into how much of a sufferfest this race was. It was humid, it was hot, and there was hardly any cloud coverage, so it was brutal. Boston as a race is so incredible. The energy from start to finish is just absolutely incredible. There are so many spectators, thousands and thousands of spectators, and all the spectators are giving out high fives. There's signs for power-ups. I probably gave out 500 to 1,000 high fives along the course. It is absolutely just something I've never experienced in my entire life. You feel like you are a professional football player, professional basketball player, with how the people of Boston and the spectators treat you. It is absolutely incredible. The course itself, first 5K, was very fast outside of how many people were there, but it is downhill. The first 5K, it's incredibly fast. You do have to be careful with how fast you go because it is downhill and you can beat up your legs pretty early on. By mile 6, it starts to you start to do a lot of hills, and honestly, by mile 6, I had already given up on my sub-3 marathon goal, and I knew that it was going to be a sufferfest. My legs were already dying. I was already drenched in sweat. I had already been pouring water on my body to cool off. So by mile 6, it was already game over. I wasn't far off on pace, but I knew that I had to convert my race goal from sub-3 to let's have some fun and let's enjoy the moment. All right, aid stations on Boston there are so many aid stations, and they have Gatorade and they have water on every single aid station. I didn't know this, but they have aid stations on both the left and the right side of the road. One will come first, and then you have the ability to go to the other side of the road. Green cups are Gatorade, white cups are water. So don't go dumping Gatorade on yourself. Tons of water, tons of Gatorade. The only thing to watch out for is how many cups are thrown on the ground. You just got to make sure that you watch your footing because you can trip up. Getting to mile 12, it was so loud. There was I think they call it the screaming tunnel or the screaming section. It's a bunch of college gals, and they are incredible. They are screaming at the top of their lungs, and it's a little weird. There's a lot of signs for kiss me, so a little bit different. And I saw some people who even were at my pace going off, giving some kisses, a lot of high fives. It was incredible. all the college people in Boston, thank you so much. You energized me. You are incredible. It's a different experience for all those college people. However, with all of the joy that came, with all the crowd and the screaming and all the high fives, there was equal amount for me of misery. This was, I would say, the second hardest race that I've ever done in my entire life. By mile 16, my legs were already cramping up. I was dehydrated, even though I was drinking so many electrolytes, tons of water. It was, by mile 16, the last 10 miles for me was an absolute sufferfest. I think at one point I cramped up so bad, I was unfortunately right next to a medical tent. Some people came over. They asked me if I wanted to go into the medical tent. I had to make the conscious decision to not go in and instead work my cramps out. But my calves,
I'm cramping up
right behind
bad.
my knees, my
Everything's
quads,
cramping up.
my
We're dying.
hamstrings, everything was locking up for me for the last 10 miles. And so I had to do a lot of walking, a lot of suffering, a lot of contemplating whether I was going to quit or not. And eventually I just decided if I have to walk the last 10 miles, I'm going to earn my medal. There was no excuses. I was going to get it regardless. By mile 15, it re-energized me. I got a burst of energy because it was pretty downhill and there was a ton of crowds. So mile 15, know that actually is something that you can try to regain a little bit of time, but it went straight right into the Newton Hills. By I think mile 18, you were doing the Newton Hills, tons of uphill. It was miserable, hot, miserable, a lot of people walking, but I would say that the Newton Hills on a regular day would be totally doable. I probably walked maybe 2 times during all 3 of the hills. The first hill is the worst. Heartbreak Hill really wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I didn't even know it was Heartbreak Hill until I saw the sign that said, you have summited Heartbreak Hill. The hills really weren't as bad as I was expecting. They were long, they were drawn out, they made your heart rate get jacked up, but if I were to have not been cramping up, I think I would have been perfectly fine on those. Once you got to mile 20, which was towards the end of the Heartbreak Hill, the last 6 miles really, you could open up again. They were fairly flat or downhill. There was a few rollers in there, but that's really where there was thousands upon thousands of people cheering you on, tons of aid stations. You had the bigger buildings to kind of block the wind. The last 6 miles on a regular day, I think, would have been absolutely incredible. However, for me, it was misery. Every single mile felt like forever long, and I just kept hoping and praying that I wasn't going to either pass out or cramp up completely where I couldn't even walk. The last 2 miles of the race were a weird experience. It was something that I had to take my earbuds out, or at least I turned my music off, and I soaked up all of the screams. It became, it seemed like I was in a stadium for the NFL, playoffs or something. It was so loud, it was incredible, but it felt like it went on forever. You had 2 turns for the last mile, and it felt like the last half-mile stretch to the finish line. It felt like it went on forever and ever and ever, but eventually you get there. And once you get there, it feels so good to see that finish line, to pass the finish line, to know that you're getting your medal. I will say that it was a long walk from the finish line to where you could get your bags that you had dropped off or meet with family. It was probably a half a mile walk where there was water, you got your medal, there was tons of pictures. It was a long walk, and I was in absolute misery. So that half mile walk, I just wanted to sit down and rest, but they don't allow you. They make you keep going, and if you do need to lay down, they actually want you to get on a wheelchair or in a wheelchair and go to a medical tent if you can't walk to the very end. But I have got to say, the city of Boston, all the spectators, the volunteers, thank you so much. This is going to be a memory I will never forget. A more epic course. It was brutal. It was electrifying. It was memorable. For me, I wouldn't have it any other way. It took so much effort to get to Boston, and to have a brutal course was epic for me. I'm glad for the challenge, and I'm so glad to say that I ran the Boston Marathon. I'm proud of myself. Overall, my time, I'm not happy with it. The halfway point, I was at 1:32, so I was already off course for sub 3 hours, but I had so much walking that last half. I ended up at 3 hours and 26 minutes and some odd seconds. So happy with that time, but also not happy with that time. Considering the conditions, I am happy, but I could have done much better. So anyway, so excited. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it again. We'll see. I did qualify for next year already, but we'll see if I run it. It is a brutal course, and it's something that I'm going to have to seriously contemplate if I want to put myself in that much misery again. So anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody. Everybody who finished this, you should wear your medal with a badge of honor. It's incredible. So, all right, as always, let's thrive together. Woo!